I'm here. Can you guys hear me? Hello?
We can hear you. Mr. Jones, can you hear us?
Way back. Oh, 2 weeks ago.
Yes, I can. All good.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is the flag of the state of Mexico, the symbol for friendship among the United States. At 5:38 p.m. Roll call, please.
Dr. Guy Shambo,
Here.
Emily Hunt Daly, Robert Hayes.
Here.
Richard Jones.
Present.
What? We have quorum. Mr. Weidner, adoption of agenda.
There's two, sorry,
Is there any changes?
I recommend two changes. Under item 4, staff recognition, I'd like to remove that item as the recognition is not here this evening. And under item 6B, yes, we were going to have our second read on B, and we do not have the changes back from legal. And so I'd like to postpone the second read until our next meeting. And that would be all of the changes, sir.
Is there a motion to accept the agenda as amended?
So moved.
So moved by Robert Hayes to accept the agenda as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Richard Jones to approve the agenda as amended. Roll call, please.
Dr. Guy Shambo,
Yes.
Robert Hayes,
Yes.
Richard Jones.
Aye.
Motion carries. Adoption of minutes. Is there a recommendation on the minutes, Mr. Weidner?
I recommend to adopt the minutes from our August 15th meeting
As presented,
as presented.
a moment notice, look at them. I reviewed them. Is there a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
So move, Dr. Guy.
Motion made by Robert Hayes. Is there a second?
Second.
By Rich Jones to approve the minutes as presented. Roll call.
Dr. Guy Shambo,
Yes.
Robert Hayes,
Yes.
Richard Jones.
Aye.
Motion carries. Recognitions.
Tonight I have the honor of recognizing two outstanding students that go to Grants High School. They're being recognized by not only Grant Cibola County Schools, but they're also being recognized by the College Board. They're being recognized for their outstanding scores on the PSAT exam.
Really?
They did very well on the PSAT, both students, and have exceptional grade point averages at their high school. And so nationally, they're being recognized by College Board, but we also want to recognize them in their hometown, in their home school district. Found out, or I realized a moment ago that both boys are alumni of Blue Water Elementary School. And so we're very proud of their academic success. We're very proud of their PSAT scores. We know that they're going to do well on the SAT as they're preparing to go to college in the future. So tonight, it's my honor to recognize Noah Lundstrom. And Derek Parks. So would you like to introduce your family?
A photo op before you get too.
Get off that easy. Yeah, would you stand, Mr. Wagner? Photo op.
Come on. Hold on. I want to get a photo. You can come closer. We're not going to bite you.
Give me your phone. We'll do yours.
Oh, okay.
You can't leave with your phone.
You need yours? You're gonna stand with the pen, with your.
Viviana
There
and
you go.
Karen.
We can do one family at a time
One
and then
family at
all
a time?
together.
We can do it all
Come
together.
on
We
in.
don't mind. We're Blue Water family.
There you go. Everybody can see your face. Look this way.
Okay.
And maybe one without me.
No, we're okay. Hey, that's okay.
Please.
There you go.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
And teacher. Teacher, Blue Water
And
teacher.
teacher.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love
And
that.
plain Mr. Simpson.
Tag, you're it.
Boys, you're welcome to introduce your guests, your family.
They might have had a little hand in getting you to this point, so you might want to. Just saying.
I'm here with my mother, Alicia Lundstrom.
Okay, and she is right there. Okay, great.
I'm here with my mother and father, Viviana Canales and Aaron Burks.
Your sisters.
And my
Ouch.
sisters, oldest sister, Evelyn Burks, and my youngest, Bethany Burks.
Okay, there you go. All right.
One of the hardest things that our youth have to do is to pass these gateway tests, because they tell the outside world things about these students, and it helps them to further their aspirations, whatever it is that they're going to do. So we do find it exceptional. We wish it was not as exceptional, but we do appreciate those students who have achieved as much as you two have. And it's no doubt that this is a reflection of all that you've been for all the years that you have been in school. And more than likely, it is a predictor of what it is that you're going to become in the future. And we do thank you for excelling, and we also thank the parents. We also thank the staff who were instrumental in getting you here, and good luck in the future for you guys. Ms. Hayes.
Exactly that. I think the same sentiments of the president. Do well in school. You just make us proud all the way around.
Yes, absolutely. Ms. Widener, you got a few thoughts?
I'm really proud of these boys. I got the privilege of being their principal for a while, and am just impressed with their scores, their character. They're both outstanding young men as well. And not only are they academically strong, but they're outstanding good students. And I'm sure GHS is very proud of their honor tonight, as Grant Cibola County Schools is. So congratulations, boys. We're very proud of you.
Okay, thank you. Richard?
Echo everything everybody said there. Great honor and really cool that the college recognized him as well. It takes something special to rise above the rest, and congratulations, both of you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Dr. Archambault, that concludes our recognitions for tonight.
Thank you. Families, students, thank you. Remember those tests. Gary. All right. Mr. Wagner.
I do not believe we have any citizens to address the board. Is that correct, Ms. Sandoval? We don't. Okay.
I want to remind the public that that we have modified the and opened up the window a little bit more for the public to comment if they so desired. They can communicate with the superintendent's office, with Lorraine, even to this day at about 4 o'clock. So the window's open for you in the future. So we just wanted to let you know that, okay? Mr. Widener, action items.
We now have presentations. And again, we only have one presentation tonight. And our schools will be presenting at every board meeting from now on. And so our first school presentation is going to be from the administration of Grants High School.
Thank you.
I waited for this moment for a minute where there's like,
Oh, yeah.
Steve, I'm gonna send it to you.
Sure. This is your first presentation, right? So we need to take a photo of it.
Yes.
See of these, you know. Yeah,
Please.
yeah.
And you are gonna introduce your newest
I
team
will,
members.
yeah.
Your security staff.
Right?
Okay, ready?
I'm ready.
Take a
I'm-
picture.
Oh, okay.
Take a picture.
Cheese.
Nice. I didn't want to get.
Always ready for.
I just now sent it to you. I shared it with you.
I'll share it with me or
Yeah.
email it.
I shared it through
Box.
Box.
Somewhere in the magic box that's there. That's what they are, it's a magic box.
Slides.
Well, Brandon, what is Stevie?
Slides.
Ms. Elkins, why don't you
Slides.
do intros while we're waiting?
We'll do that. So, good afternoon, Dr. Guy, board members, Mr. Widener, Ms. Sandoval, and directors. As you know, my name is Stevie Elkins. I am the principal at Grants High School. You've met Mr. Jaramillo, who is assistant principal at Grants High School, but with Mrs. Jones' transitions, we have recently named Mr. Jaramillo the athletic director at Grants High School. And to my left here is Mr. Herman Young. He's brand new as of today, as interim assistant principal here at Grants High School.
Fantastic. A little background.
I'll tell you, but.
So, a little background about me. I'm originally from California. I've actually been in New Mexico quite a long time now. Went to New Mexico Highlands, got my bachelor's, got a master's in special education from GCU, and I just finished my administrative master's from GCU as well.
Fantastic.
Thanks for bringing that, good job.
Excellent.
We're excited to have, super excited.
I got nothing for you
Well
guys.
So hit share. I already did.
They might be good on your basketball
So go
team.
ahead and add.
See, it's restricted.
That's so I'm gonna go here.
You can see over everybody in the halls.
Yes, there you go.
Here, just so it's restricted to the only ones that have access, but we'll figure this out. We're gonna give you a download, Steve, that's gonna be a PowerPoint via email, if you'll look in your email.
Entertain us. That'll be my recommendation.
Get it?
To give a chance to do its review,
They're all
to
looking.
do its review.
Aha.
There you go.
So again, good afternoon, Mr. President, board members, Mr. Widener, Ms. Sandoval, directors. It is my pleasure to be introducing to you guys and presenting some information about the beginning of our year at Grants High School. We don't have a ton of data because we are only 3 weeks in, but we hope that you find this data exciting and informative for you guys. So just a brief overview. Our enrollment currently is sitting at 888, which is about 40 more than we ended last year with, so that's positive. We have a really big 10th grade cohort. So our 12th graders are at 193, our 11th graders at 229, our 10th graders at 243, and our new incoming freshmen are at 223, which is about average. I've already introduced the new administrative team at Grants High School, and like I said, we're super excited to get that started and get some systems and some leadership in place. Today we're going to talk about EWS and our SSA collaboration and what we're doing with those two systems and those two teams at Grants High School. We're going to talk a little bit about our dash goals. We're going to talk about some exciting homecoming information, and we actually already honored our 2 students, but I'll talk a little bit more about that and the programs that they're receiving at Grants High School as well. So like I said, we really want to talk about EWS, which is our early warning system, and right now we have 2 staff members on staff at Grants High School that take care of early warning system duties, and our SSAs, which are student success advisors. Over this summer, we really talked, and I know that I've talked to you guys about this before, but our attendance and the issues that we have with attendance district-wide, but at Grants High School specifically. We have decided that we can only control the things that we can control, and EWS can call parents every single day, and we can call JPO, we can call CYAT, we can do that, but at the end of the day, our efforts need to equally be met with the students who are on campus that have ditching issues and attendance issues. And so we talked about the marriage of those 2 departments, EWS and SSAs. And ultimately, we want these kids to graduate. So we've kind of rerouted, not their job description or their job duties, but the goals of both of those systems. And really what we want is an increase in graduation rate. We want kids on campus, we want kids present, because, and even during our orientations, I told them, and I told the parents, if your child is here, we will get them through that. If they are on this campus and they are present and they're in those seats, we will get them to graduation. We can't fix what we don't see. And so we've really combined those efforts with keeping students in class. We are sending out what we believe to be a ditching list daily. And so what's happening is at 4th period, we run attendance, and anybody that has one period but not the other, that is a red flag to us that this kid is on campus, he's been here for 1st and 2nd, but he's not here for 3rd. Where is he going? And we have decided to mobilize those departments to get to look, because sometimes it's a mistake, sometimes it's a teacher mistake, sometimes they were in the nurse, sometimes the teacher had an IEP that they weren't able to do their attendance immediately. But we have started to really focus on the kids that are in our hands and under our control so that we can get them back into class. And so the last couple days during fourth period, which is our enrichment and our advisory period, we have been calling every single student, all 100 of them from that list, and having a little get together in the cafeteria and saying, okay, where were you? What were you doing? Were you in the nurse? Were you actually here? And if it's a teacher issue, we are alleviating that immediately. Hey, you didn't do your attendance and this kid was in the cafeteria for ditching issues. Like, it needs to be cleaned up. And so we're really focusing both of those departments for a common goal, because we feel like in the past they've been working as silos and they feel like they have different functions, but at the end of the day, graduation rates and student success and attendance is our goal, and it should be everybody's goal. We're really trying to break teachers out of that mindset, as well as in that mindset being that what happens in their class is the only thing that's important to them. We need to see it on a grand scale, that your classroom is important to my classroom and my classroom is important to yours, and ultimately it's important to everybody. So they're getting those notifications. We're very aggressive, professionally aggressive with making sure they're doing their attendance and making sure that it's accurate. We have reminded them that that's part of domain 4 of their professional responsibilities in keeping accurate and maintaining those records. So you'll see that in itself, we want to foster a positive culture. If kids are happy and they're safe and they're healthy, they're going to want to be in school. And it's a collaborative effort. And so we're trying to break the silos of people doing things independently. My classroom is my own. We want Grants High School to be a collective effort towards the same goals. So those two departments have been instrumental in pushing that systematic change. And we've been very, like I said, professionally aggressive about the importance of the 1 period absence versus the kid that's gone all day, that we can't find, that we've called. So we're kind of sharing the efforts, because EWS, like I said, their responsibility from the district office is to call those kids that are absent, but we want to put an equivalent amount of emphasis on the kids that are in school, that are just ditching class and that are cutting class. We've gotten aggressive with our substitutes and how we manage that, because sometimes substitutes don't know who the kids are supposed to be in their classroom. So if they have an extra 5, they are not going to understand and realize that those kids are using your classroom as a ditching place. So every single substitute at Grants High School gets a roster every day, and they have been told, only these kids. If you have kids that are not on that roster, you call somebody, we will get them. So we're trying to get a grip on the in-house attendance issues, and then just reassessing and reevaluating and see how that works and the improvements, and collecting that data accurately. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our DASH goals. So our first DASH goal is data-driven instruction, and it's become, and I feel like this has always been a goal, and it's been a persistent goal. I don't know if we understand what that means. So we are going to take that DASH goal and that focus area and really take it back to a granular level. Do we understand what data-driven instruction is? Do we understand what academic data is and how it helps? Or are we just looking at this for the sake of looking at that? We want it to be actionable. So we are taking that back down to a very elementary level of consistent, actionable data. And we're going to start there. And it sounds very, very low, but the reality is that we don't understand academic data and the power that it has, and we need to start with understanding that first and what it means. And so we've talked about aligning our staff's PDP goals to that DASH goal, and having some sort of element of data-driven instruction in their own personal goals that, again, align to the common goal of graduation. We want a strict alignment to the end goal. We want to train up teachers to develop individualized instructional plans based on the data that they're collecting in their classrooms. And the other reality is that they're not collecting a ton of data. We are relying solely on our summative data that's provided to us, and we are not doing a great job collecting data that means something at Grants High School and to those classrooms. And so we want to really coach them up, and we really want to focus on what data-driven instruction really means and what it means to Grants High School. So, and then our next dash goal, with the new leadership team, we felt like it would be imperative that we develop a leadership style and develop those systems that come with a brand new leadership team. So we are really gonna focus on systems, and one of those systems, like I said, like I mentioned previously, is that EWS SSA system. I think that that's critical to our success. So through our PLCs, we are wanting to do a systems assessment. What systems do we have? What systems do we need? What systems work? What systems do not? And then we just want to continually improve those systems. And with that, I found comes with a huge commitment from not only us, but from the teachers as well. And it's one of those things that we have to be professionally aggressive about, the importance of those systems. They work only if everybody does them. And I feel like sometimes it's easy for us to articulate that and to say that in trainings or in PLCs or in staff meetings, but if we don't put the pedal to the metal and do that ourselves, if they're not gonna do that. So we wanna map that out. We want a timeline. When should this be done? When do we want it to be done? How are we gonna assess its effectiveness? And how are we gonna sustain them? Because that's important, because we go all summer and I dream up these amazing ideas and they sound amazing in my head, but if they're not applicable and actionable, and if people are not on board with those, they're gonna 100% fly. So the sustainability of those systems is really important to us as well. We want to continuously improve those things, including the culture, and we want to bring students in. We want students to have stake in what we're doing, because I think that that is important. Like I said, if they're not feeling happy, if they're not feeling healthy, if they're not feeling safe at your school, none of this is going to be effective. So those are our two dash focus goals. I'm gonna let Mr. Hadamio kind of talk about, oh, sorry.
Was actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're gonna talk about CTSOs.
I wasn't.
Oh,
planning on
you're,
that.
sorry, are you already doing it?
I can do it.
Okay, sorry. I can do it.
So some of the CTSOs that we have to offer the students at Grants High School, we have FFA, we have Skills USA, DECA, and FCCLA. These all align with our CTE programs and courses that we have to offer. So this is the after-school program for them to continue their skills in those different areas. I think the next page has some as well. No.
So,
Do you need to add anything to that?
no, just these are very, very supplemental to the goals as well. This is the happy portion of what I always talk about, that happy, healthy, and safe. This is the happy portion of that, because these are the things that the kids want to do, and these are the things that they enjoy doing. And I think that we have done a really good job on the school level, and I can't take full credit for that. That would go to Mr. Widener, but having something for kids to do beyond what they are already required to do. If you can get a high school kid back on campus to do something like this, we've done a good job, because at 3:25, we're done with 90% of those kids. Like they are running away. And if we can get 50% of them back because we're doing something fun for them, that's positive. And these CTSOs have blown up at Grants High School. I know I mentioned this before, but we could use another 2 welding teachers. We could use another 2 broadcasting teachers at Grants High School. We have such a huge interest in those things. And they intertwine with our academics as well. We have classes that support these. And so these have blown up. And I think that the continuation and the implementation of new ones as we decide what students want and what they need will be huge for Grants High School. And then, Mr. Maldonado, there should have been a video on that, and I'm worried that the video was lost. No, there's, because it's a PowerPoint. It's a YouTube video, yeah. Good.
I gotta share the sound. Share the sound. Stop, Steve, stop. more, right?
You are really
And just to add to those CTSOs also are the gateway to community involvement as well. Something big this weekend was the Bi-County Fair, and a huge part of that was our FFA program helping out that Bi-County Fair. So that was nice to see Grants High School students out there helping and running at the Bi-County Fair. So a lot of those CTSO programs are the gateway to the community as well.
Okay, get that audio.
Try again? Is that what you're saying?
Just share
Share
the
your
screen
screen.
that has the
Oh,
video,
got it.
not the slide.
it's so nice that you guys helped me. Oh, the YouTube video. Got it.
I do want to commend your Skills USA kids too. They were out, there was community events this weekend. Your kids were out photographing and making videos and
I'm sorry.
So I'm gonna talk about the homecoming. We did have a very successful homecoming. It was the third week of school. For me, that was something new, because I hadn't been part of a homecoming as an administrator. I've been elementary and middle school administrator, but never high school. So it was very, it was a very good experience. It was cool. It was nice to see all of our kids excited and happy. A lot of different things happening at lunches. We had a successful half of a powder puff game. We got rained out, so we made it to halftime. We also had a successful, on Saturday, we had a successful parade. It was the first time that I believe in history that we offered to have all of our elementary schools in the district participate in the parade. I came in as, again, a elementary principal, assistant principal, and then a middle school principal. And I said to the team, I said, you don't realize how much the littles look up to our athletes, look up to the high school. And so we had a conversation with Ms. Alkins, and we agreed that the high school is a pillar of our community. Why not invite our elementary schools to participate in that? And we had a very good turnout. Most elementary schools participated, and they created awesome floats. Their kids were excited to participate, and so very successful parade that we had this year. And then after the parade, we also had a very good turnout for our football team. They beat Gallup 56-0, so ended at halftime as well. So we had a very fun homecoming week, 2 weeks ago. And so that video is just a recap of some of the pictures and the events that we had. Lots of fun, lots of excitement from our students at Grants High School.
And something else that I want to mention about homecoming that I don't know if this has ever been a reality either, but our homecoming king this year, and I felt like this speaks volumes to who we are and what we believe in and what's important at Grants High School, was actually a student out of our life skills classroom. And so he was the homecoming king this year. Not super verbal, but the students at Grants High School chose him. You know, it was a big win, and it was amazing as adults and as administrators to be able to crown him as the homecoming king, because I don't think that that's ever happened out of our life skills classroom. And it just goes to show that kids are watching and they care and they're seeing the things that are important. So that was pretty powerful for us. The last part of our presentation was actually about the boys, but Mr. Weidner took care of that. And I have nothing more to say that hasn't been said about those two boys and their character and their academic excellence. And so can we take any questions or comments or anything like that?
Board members? Mr. Hayes?
So sad that you didn't have the bonfire.
So sad. We're gonna have like a fall, like a harvest fire when it dries out.
I hope it snows.
Sorry.
I'm just that guy, I'm sorry.
But no, our bonfire was rained out, so
Thank you very much, yes, we planned that.
Last year too.
we're gonna have like maybe like a fall harvest festival or something,
In honor of you.
just for you.
Just for you.
Pray for snow that day. That's all I know.
You have a problem with fire.
I do have a problem with fire, just a little bit.
The students keep spreading the rumor, hey, we're having the bonfire this Friday. I said, really? I didn't know.
We'll see what happens.
Mrs. Elkins, I really like your dash goals. Will you describe for the board kind of what your PLCs look like and where you're getting that authentic data?
So, something that I've learned, and so Mr. Hadamio and I are both participating in RISE this year. Something that I have learned is that if your teachers don't have a say in what you're doing, you just absolutely you have nothing. They are the ones, and I've said it a million times, we lead from behind. They are pulling that and we are pushing from behind. In no way do we want to be the ones driving that. So our PLCs, in addition to examining student work, we really wanted to focus on what they need and what they want and what's going to make them a better teacher and what's going to make their life easier. And so our very, very first PLC, in the state of New Mexico, we no longer offer health at the high school level. That's offered at the middle school level. So historically, we offered health and then driver's ed the next semester. So we had to replace health with something. So we've implemented a freshman success school orientation type course that every single freshman at Grants High School receives. Our very, very first PLC was what that looks like for everybody. As a senior teacher, what do you wish would have happened their freshman year? As a sophomore teacher, what do you wish would have happened? How do we make, one of the portions of that class is a weekly grade check and a weekly credit check. How does that intertwine with the teachers who are teaching other subjects that aren't teaching freshmen? How does that work? So our DASH goals were very needs-based. What do we need? What's gonna make us successful? What's gonna make our lives easier? And how do we get there? So it's one of those things, like I said, that I've learned that if you don't ask them and ask them for their input, it is going to be us making those decisions, and we cannot pull that ship by ourselves in any way. We cannot do that. So it's important to us to make sure that they are receiving what they need and that we are marrying what we need with those DASH goals and what does it look like in its application in its classroom on a daily basis. It's not something that we want to talk about and write about and push to the state and be approved. It's something that we want to live and we want to breathe every single day. So our PLCs are focusing, in addition to the examining student work, how we make those things real life.
Thank you.
Sure.
Good.
Mr. Jones?
Richard? What I got a sense of while he's waiting to write his notes down, I guess, is that I get the impression that there's a desire to create some non-negotiable principles of education in your school. It means we will now no longer tolerate certain kinds of things.
Absolutely.
And we will set guardrails to make sure that those things
are addressed and we don't allow ourselves, and we have to watch each other to help each other, sustaining that effort. You're saying systems. Sounds like it's systemic throughout everybody. And so combining the two entities, the early morning system and this students' success to prevent ditching, which you had already explained some time back, and how innovative these kids can be. Remember, they are intelligent. They'll figure out, they're looking for loopholes right now.
Exactly.
They're doing that. And so you're talking about data reports. I was wondering whether or not the Title VII liaison, I don't know what staff person you have from Title VI, I mean.
I have two. Mr. Michael Pino and Ms. Marva Toya both assist in that effort as well.
Yeah, because they would probably be an asset to the school.
They are, absolutely. Mr. Pino's brand new to us, but Mrs. Toya has been part of our team for the last several years now, and she has been an asset in that effort.
Okay. As you may have known, is that the board had a retreat few days ago, trying to develop an awareness of what the data is telling us, what it's been telling us over time. And so one of the things that came to my mind right now is the profile of performance has been existing the way it has been for quite some time. And the challenge is to try to address that at all grade levels, particularly at the high schools, because it's really important that we do it from K through 12. My question to myself was, why? Why are we not able to get over that hump, or whatever we want, however we want to characterize it? But we have some substantial disparities that exist. And so we don't have the answers. The answers have to come from you. We count on, and as you say, you have to lead from behind. And so we have to, we express our positions on things, and we do expect results, but we need to have a better understanding of what's causing it. And one of it is ditching. It's a small thing, but it actually is important. It drives you crazy. So we need to know why. And so the causes of underperformance, underachievement is the answers for those comes from schools, from professional staff, from your PLCs, and however you organize these things. And so what we need to do is ensure that we're aligned. Our strategic plan is aligned with what it is that the schools are doing. So we have more work to do to create a system-wide initiative that addresses these kinds of things. And that's what our parents want. Our community needs to see that we can really make a difference. And so what we're counting on, Lane and I were talking about that, is that there's an opportunity for us to really dig into this and figure out what is it that we can do. And you already are doing those things with your teams and with your teachers. And as you said, they won't do it. They're not convinced. They want to do their own thing in the classroom and be successful at that. However, you want them to help create a school-wide effort that is team-oriented and not individual-oriented. And those kids need it. And so I think that it's just looking at making my notes here, that it's a good beginning.
One thing we talked about in our board retreat, we talked about that we would like to see actual data. And so Dr. Martin and I will help you to get actual data on all of your 887 students? 888, okay. We want to make sure that you have solid data that you can see growth and see where your kids are.
Yeah.
So we'll be working to help you with that.
Dr. Widener, I don't want to give you that. Mr. Widener and I were talking about that. I said, we need to have authentic data. That's real-time data, not data 6 weeks from now. But you generate data, just as you said. There may be data points that you have that we certainly need to know and they be replicated in other sites so that we can all make an effort to address them in some systematic way. And one of them is attendance, is chronic absenteeism. Who are they? And then in your setting, it's ditching in the school, during the school day. So you're generating on-time, real-time kinds of data that really has probably more impact. Because if you can get them into the right chair instead of skipping and moving around, you finally got them. Then you know that they know they can't hide.
Right.
Yeah.
That means they're in the classroom and they have to show what they know or what they don't know. What I also like, what you said is that you brought the kids together and you asked them, what gives? That answer needs to be genuine. And we need to make sure that when a child says, I didn't want to go to class, or I don't know why, then we dig deeper, because there's a reason why they didn't want to go to class. We got to find out whether it is because the teacher was, they did not have a good relationship with the teacher, or the teacher was not being very effective that day, that week, or has some performance issues, or whether it's that student who has a history of low performance and has, it's a way to push him or herself out. So that's really important for us to know. It's for you to know, because they have the right mindset, right mental attitudes, be in that classroom, and then addressing it as a team. One of the things that I mentioned again with Mr. Widener is the clinical model, is where all children are looked at holistically. You look at the whole of that child and whether there's a problem. And if you have a team that looks at children, not in silos, like a math teacher only looks at math, but we look at them together and say, okay, this child is coming to us with these set of skills, this mindset, and this potential. What are we doing? What's his strengths? What are his or her weaknesses? And how can we convey that to our parents? And as Mr. Hayes and I know, parental involvement is extremely important. And we've got to figure out a way to help those parents who need that help. Let's put it that way. Thank you very much. You guys did a good job.
Have a good evening. Thank you, guys.
Dr. Archambault, that completes our presentations for tonight.
Thank you. You may stay.
You mentioned chicken.
Mr. Widener.
At this time, we have 3 action items. The first action item is consideration of approval of the expenditure of up to $300,000 of ESSER funds in reimbursable expenses to share with the Pueblo of Laguna as a response to the Pueblo's proposal to address learning loss. This is goal number 4 of our strategic plan. We have reached out to the community. Mr. Maldonado and I met with the tribal leaders from the Pueblo of Acoma, and there were also meetings with the Navajo Nation. At this time, we are waiting on a proposal from the Pueblo of Acoma. And so my recommendation would be that we table this motion so that the board members can look at the proposal, examine the proposal. Once you have the proposal from Acoma, then I'd like to bring that back at our October 3rd meeting.
So, Mr. President, so the one proposal in there is only from the Pueblo of Laguna?
Correct.
I see.
We're waiting on the one from the Pueblo of Acoma.
Okay, and they're aware that it needs to be done
Correct.
before we take any action?
We gave them a deadline of mid-September.
Okay.
You also understand that the board has to review the applicant to make sure that that we understand and find that it's a worthy project, so to speak.
Correct.
Okay, so you wish us to move to table without any discussion of it?
That's my
Is
recommendation.
there a motion to table?
Mr. President, do we need a motion to table or just take no action? Which one do we need to do?
Okay, yeah, if we were gonna table it, we should have done it at the beginning. We cannot table it now. Just if we decide to take no action, we take no action.
I'll entertain a motion and then we'll just see where it goes. I entertain a motion to approve the recommendation of expenditure of up to 300,000 from ESSF for Laguna. See no motion being made, the motion dies.
Next time around.
And he has the flexibility to decide what to do with it. Okay. B, consideration of Tyler.
At this time, I'll let Mr. Maldonado and Mr. Triplehorn talk about what this program is and how it greatly affects our school buses.
I'm gonna ask you to call your attention to the video monitors and watch this 2 short.
As students enter or leave the vehicle, they scan a radio frequency identification card. How can you enhance safety, improve communication, increase efficiency, and provide oversight of your operation? One solution does all this. Tyler Drive. It's one-of-a-kind software loaded onto a unique, semi-rugged tablet, which is mounted on a school bus near the driver. Fully integrated with Tyler Student Transportation software, Tyler Drive provides turn-by-turn directions to each scheduled stop, manages student ridership, records pre- and post-trip vehicle inspections, and electronically logs employee hours. First, your transportation team develops routes for your district using your Tyler Student Transportation solution, Traversa or VersaTrans, designating the safest, most efficient way for your students to be picked up and dropped off each day. When a driver logs into a Tyler Drive unit, their assigned run is uploaded using the exact route and stops you built. Tyler Drive provides the driver with route-specific directions to each stop, following district policy and safety guidelines. It can provide visual directions or audio only, with the screen blacked out while the bus is in motion. These electronic directions are significantly safer for drivers and riders compared to paper route sheets, as they allow the driver to keep both hands on the wheel and both eyes on the road. They also make it faster and easier to onboard new drivers or teach sub-drivers a new route. At each stop, Tyler Drive shows the names and photos of the students who are assigned to board or leave the bus at this location. As students enter or leave the vehicle, they scan a radio frequency identification card, or RFID, over the Tyler Drive card reader. This creates a record of when and where the student scanned. The driver is also alerted to students attempting to board the wrong bus or exit at unassigned locations. As each student scans their card, their parent or guardian receives an alert on a secure, integrated mobile app. Tyler Drive has an internal GPS, allowing you to manage vehicle location in real time, or track and trace the vehicle location, speed, and heading of the vehicle at earlier points in time. Before and after each run, the drivers can undock Tyler Drive and take it with them as they perform their pre- and post-trip vehicle inspections. Tyler Drive provides a customizable checklist and can require a signature from the bus driver to help ensure a thorough inspection. Tyler Drive also manages employee timekeeping. Staff, including drivers, aides, and mechanics, can clock in or out on the tablet so that they don't have to go to the depot to punch in. With Tyler Drive, you can enhance the safety of your students, improve communication, increase efficiency, and provide oversight over your district's transportation. Tyler Technologies. To learn more, visit the web, tylertech.com.
Earlier this year, we attended a Tyler Connect. It's a company that we have through our Visions accounting software. Ms. Salazar and I saw a demonstration of this presentation there, and there were a number of issues from an HR standpoint, from an operational standpoint, and from a financial standpoint that this addresses. The Zonar program that we previously had is obsolete, and they don't provide any more updates with that. So that presents a safety issue for students, registration, things like that. There's no way to track where the drivers are at any given moment, whether they're on route or what's going on with that. And then also from a financial point of view, this also reduces our risk that this improves our risk management of student safety, where kids are, what's happening on the bus, things like that. So it was time to replace the Zonar program. This is the program that we looked at. There's only a couple of programs out there, Zonar and then this one. This integrates with our Tyler Technologies Visions program already. We had a demonstration that we asked them to come and give a demonstration. I forgot who all was involved with that, Jerry and Mr. Triplehorn and others. So a number of applications. So we're asking the board to approve this implementation. The fee is $92,000 some odd dollars, as you can see in the, I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me, $92,000 for the implementation. And then the ongoing cost is $19,500 a year. So it's very reasonable and it provides a lot of solutions for us. I'll let Mr. Triplehorn talk a little bit more about the operations part of it.
Mr. President, board members, so the video did mention something that we are not going to use. We're not going to use the RFID cards for kids because that would just be a nightmare replacing those all the time. So when students get on the bus, they'll be checked on by their picture, by the bus driver, instead of writing it down on a piece of paper. One of the things that this system offers us is we can actually look at our route efficacy, and we can remodel routes virtually to see how that affects bus loads and stuff like that. So if we have a route that's overcrowded, is there a bus nearby that we could take and alleviate some of that, extra kids on the bus that we get complaints about from parents and community members? The other thing that this does is it monitors the driver's habits when they're driving. So are they making hard stops? Are they making hard accelerations? Are they going faster than the speed limit? So it's gonna reduce our liability as far as risk management goes, because we can, if we have a person that says, oh, this bus passed me going 80 miles an hour, we can look on GPS and say, no, they were going 65 on the freeway or whatever. So it's about a good tool. The other thing that this system does is it actually integrates with the camera system that we're looking at putting on all the buses as well. So it would be a one-stop shop for us to be able to look at, if you get a parent that calls and says, this bus ran a stop sign, we can pull up the video at that stop sign and see if they actually did. So I think it's a great tool. Districts I've worked in the past, we have GPSs on buses and white fleet vehicles as well, and it just makes sense from a risk management standpoint. It helps with our insurance and everything. So, and then one of the other benefits of this is sometimes we're always shorthanded bus drivers. We have 3 openings right now, 3 of them, 3 to and from routes and 3 activity bus drivers. But if we have a bus driver that calls in sick, they may not be familiar with this route, the route that they have to take over. And so this system automatically tells them how to go through the route. They don't even have to, you could put Steve in the bus and it would tell him.
Oh my God.
So that's gonna be huge for us, because right now we spend a lot of time trying to figure out how we can get other bus drivers to cover routes when someone is gone because they're not familiar with the stops and all that, so.
You can reroute on the fly if there's traffic issues, things like that.
That's one of the questions.
There's information also that we can provide our parents. It's called an ETA, estimated time of arrival. So parents are always calling up and saying, where are our kids? They're not here on time and things like that. And it alerts our parents that there's an estimated time of arrival as well, so that they know that they're en route and they know approximately the time that they'll be arriving at their destination.
Can they get that in the mornings too?
They can,
Yeah.
well, so when their student gets on the bus, it'll check them in. It can send the parent a text saying, hey, your kid got on the bus. And then when they get off the bus at the school, it'll say, your kid got off the bus at school. So.
Will it work in areas where there's not great satellite service?
Well, it should send when it gets within range.
Correct. So it'll hold everything in its cache memory. And then once it gets to cell reception again, it'll upload it automatically. So.
Thinking about Cebueta.
Is there a motion?
Mr. President, I just have a couple of questions. Always for this guy. Are we gonna try and have some say from the drivers? Are you gonna try and have some say from the drivers when this is inputted?
So
Because
we,
it may show on the CAD that you've got in the bus, but they may know something different. I'm hoping that that is also integrated.
yes, yeah, so when we're building the routes, we'll get with the driver when we're building their routes in the computer and say, is this how you do your route? And if they say, no, I do this because of this, then we'll build that route according to the way they drive.
Okay, and then is it transferable from bus A to bus B if bus A breaks down and you gotta buy a new bus?
So it's basically like an iPad tablet that's in a, a shockproof case. And you can pull it out and you can take it into another bus. It's not vehicle specific.
Okay, and then for how many buses are we buying for?
35
Something,
of
yeah,
them.
whatever the number is.
Yeah, 35,
All of them.
all of them.
Oh, we're not getting any more than that 35?
We're gonna get a couple extra tablets just in case one breaks.
That's what I'm asking about,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
kids are, notorious for helping you break something.
Right.
And then, are they gonna be able to implement, and you may not even know this at the time, construction areas and or emergencies during this route? Is there any way to plug this in there as well in real time?
So it's similar to Google Maps. So if there's a wreck on I-40, when I'm going home, I can see on Google Maps that traffic's backed up.
Yeah,
So what it'll do is it'll recalculate the safest route possible for that bus.
okay.
So one of the instances that they gave us was like, I think they were showing us in Chicago. They're like, we're not gonna drive the bus through this neighborhood in Chicago because it's gonna be a moving target for gunfire or whatever. So it'll calculate the safest route that the system knows. But as far as real time, a lot of times what our drivers do, like last week when they were setting up for the Labor Day thing, Second Street was blocked off, so they were having a hard time getting to the back road of Grants High School. And so they call each other on the radio and say, oh, you gotta go this way and stuff. So unfortunately, the real-time stuff, unless someone reports it to Google Maps or whatever, it's not gonna be,
Because what I'm getting at the beginning of the year, I think there's gonna be a mass overhaul of Mason and Roosevelt. I'm not sure if that's part of the bus route, but it's gonna be a mass overhaul. So we got the construction on Roosevelt right now that's squeezing our way down, and then there's gonna be another problem at the lights, because the DOT is in charge of that intersection. Just let everybody know that that's coming up, and it's gonna just happen overnight, I believe. But that's also out there.
And so something that's more long-term like that, what we'll do is we'll look at the routes and see how we can get around that, especially for a long-term
Sure,
project like
because it's
that.
gonna be, a
But if
2-year.
it's a short-term thing like an automobile accident blocking an intersection, that's kind of just get there and figure a way around it. So.
That's it, Mr. President. Thank you.
Mr. Webb?
Mr. President, I recommend that we approve the expenditure of $112,478 to Tyler Technologies for the purchase of the Traversa routing system.
Is the motion?
I make a motion, we approve.
Motion made by Richard Jones to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Mr.
Second by Bob Hayes to approve the motion to purchase the systems. Roll call. Oh, wait a minute. Debate? Pros and cons? Seeing
You
none?
won't mind.
Roll call.
Dr. Guyer Shambo,
Yes.
Robert Hayes,
Yes.
Richard Jones,
Aye.
Motion carries.
Our final action item is in regards to our strategic plan. Dr. Archambault and I have talked a lot about the strategic plan and how we want us to be working towards the goals of the strategic plan and kind of keeping a record at our meetings that we are moving in that direction. I would like to pass a motion that we approve scheduling of board progress reports on the strategic plan, including student academic performance, attendance, behavior, monthly, quarterly, mid-year, end-of-year assessments and scores and data. And Dr. Martin and his team will be working with the other directors to make sure that we have a solid plan as to testing and BOY data, and that we present that at our next board meeting on October 3rd. And so at this time, I would recommend that we make a motion to schedule regular board progress reports on the strategic plan.
Comments?
So move, Mr. President, that's what you're asking for.
Motion has been made by Bob Hayes. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
To approve the board progress reports on strategic plan with the master schedule submitted in October. Any discussions? I think we will need to be careful about overloading the board. We might have a 2-hour meeting just on the data. So we need to discuss how to be efficient with our time, but also to select the reports that need to be made. It may not be always the same.
Yes.
So we need to think through that. Also, the kinds of data that Principal Elkins presented, there may be some authentic real-time data that may have greater punch for us. So we need to think of being innovative with respect to the kinds of data, seeking some suggestions from the principals about what kinds of data that we need. That also fits in with Mrs. Jones's world of accountability and compliance, because we need to be effective and efficient with how we report. But it's one of the most important things that a board can do is to demonstrate that it is paying attention to the progress that we're making. And it's the first time we've done that. And with and Mr. Widener and I have spent time, and we will do so again tomorrow, just to think through some of those things so that we will prepare ourselves. And we may need to tinker with this a little bit. Okay. And this is one of your, Richard, one of your questions was about, we get the data on graduation, we get the test scores, and there's a mismatch. We need to figure out what kind of data is going to really tell us a good, meaningful story that we find the schools can act on, and we all can do it together. So we don't want to waste our time on just data, nobody uses it. We need to find data that's going to actually really push the performance levels up higher. So. And no other lengthy comments? Roll call, please.
Dr. Guyer Shambo?
Yes.
Robert Hayes?
Yes.
Richard Jones?
Aye.
Motion carries. Board members, as an aside, I did send you an article that talks about, I think, 8 effective characteristics of an effective board. And so read that, and one of them has to do with this stuff. Okay, Mr. Widener?
At this time, we're moving to our consent agenda items. You do have a expenditure report from Budget and Finance, and there are 3 bars that we need to consider passing. Mr. Maldonado, would you like to discuss any of that?
The bars are pretty standard requests for adjustments to the budget, some increases, and one initial budget for the private schools initial share initial budget.
I recommend that we do approve the consent agenda items.
Is there a motion to that effect?
Mr. President, do you need them both at once, or how would you like them?
We have one motion that will cover them all.
I make a motion, we approve.
Motion made by Richard Jones, seconded by Bob Hayes to approve the consent agenda as presented. Roll call.
Dr. Guyer Shambo?
Yes.
Robert Hayes?
Yes.
Richard Jones?
Aye.
Motion carries. Mr. Widener.
At this time, we're moving on to the superintendent's report. And I guess Mr. Miller was the person that didn't attend, so I'll kind of give a report out to you a little bit. We had our board retreat on August 29th at El Cafecito Restaurant. We had a great work session day. Did not take action as a board, but looked at a lot of data and worked together as a board. We had our directors in and out throughout the day. We talked about ways that we could become more effective as a board. We had conversations about authentic data and that we want to improve our data. We had all 5 board members in attendance, and we talked about, we looked at data. We looked at, Dr. Martin presented data in the morning, and we talked about that there is a systematic breakdown between our graduation rate and our data and the scores that we have, and that are there ways that we can improve that as a district? Is there ways that we can have more tangible data that we can touch and see growth in our kids? And how does that align with our DLPs and our examining student work and our professional learning communities? And then we had a great conversation with our district's attorney, Mr. Sanchez. He presented, and that got us into the topic of talking about our strategic plan, the goals of our strategic plan, and looking at equity, CLRE, and SEL. And so, directors, if any of you would like to provide some feedback on the next steps that you're taking coming from that, I welcome you to share that if you would like to. Mrs. Jones, do you want to talk about equity and CLRE?
You bet. So I asked Ms. Martinez to be here tonight. I know that she presented some information to you at the board. And so she was just gonna kind of give a recap on the Culturally Responsive Minds, that program that they had looked at. They'd done some implementation in January and in April, I believe. And so I was gonna have her give you a little update on that.
Let me kind of preview that, is that if one looks at what the New Mexico Public Education Department is expressing as its expectations for school districts, it's stemming from a lot of the historical issues that have manifested into the Ozzie Martinez lawsuit. And so any place in the Public Education Department's website, you'll find a set of expectations and explanations and guidance as how we need to do those things. And so the board has already has a strategic plan that describes in the narrative the recognition of equity and how it is equity for all. And so when we talk about equity, we're talking about every child in this district. If a child has a need, how do we address that need? And that's important. So we need to figure out how we're going to do that systemically. Nevertheless, we need to become much more knowledgeable as a district, not only with teachers and principals, but directors and the board. We need to all be a part of that so that the schools feel that we are understanding what needs to be done and that we will support their efforts in getting that done. So this is one of our initial efforts to do that. And thank you, Ms. Jones, for having Ms. Martinez to give us a quick synopsis of what it is that we have begun to talk about.
Thank you, Board President, board members, Superintendent Widener, colleagues and community members. So this year, to I guess kind of comply with Martinez-Yazzie in regards to implementing CLR, we started training Blue Water, San Rafael, Cobero, Cebolleta, Laguna Acoma Junior, Senior High School, and Mesa View in the culturally responsive minds, as Ms. Jones had articulated. It's a combination of CLR and SEL. It's the curriculum that we adopted with former Superintendent Perez. We trained initially these six schools, 6 schools back in January. And then we did a follow-up training and a modeling in the classroom back in April. We haven't since done any training. The curriculum is available to everyone on our shared drive. I did do a budget request submitted to Superintendent Widener and Ms. Jones just recently. Discussions are currently being had regarding that. I will say that during the Professional Development Day on August 7th, I did a training on relationship development, and there was a lot of buy-in on just kind of what we were talking about in regards to SEL and CLR and how to implement that. So I was able to share some of that with some of the special education teachers and some of the general ed teachers, especially those from Los Alamitos. I was really excited to hear that they have a lot of interest in utilizing the curriculum. Even before training, I really encouraged them to go ahead and start exploring. That way, if they have any questions about it, it can be presented to the trainers if and when that does get approved. That's all I have for you.
Thank you. Mr. Wayner?
Do you have anything to add, Mrs. Jones?
Well, so we have kind of looked at the proposal. And the 2-year implementation schedule that was given to us from the Culturally Responsive Minds that Ms. Martinez supplied to me and to Mr. Widener. And so we're looking at that cost of implementation. So the 2-year cost of implementation for 30 teachers is about $226,000. So we would kind of like to explore a few more options through the PED and through some other sources to see if there's something that we could do that would reach more than 30 teachers and it would be more cost effective, where we could reach every school site, every teacher, that there are things that could be embedded into lessons instead of it being a separate curriculum. I don't want teachers to feel the pressure of another thing that they need to teach, but rather, and I feel strongly that social emotional learning can be woven into most everything that teachers do in the classroom, starting very young with pre-K, just that self-awareness and those relationship skills and those types of things that social emotional language or social emotional love, as we have said, it's social emotional love. And so I think that there are a lot of things that every teacher can do in their classroom every single day to help students become aware of those social emotional competencies. So when I spoke with Mr. Widener about it, we did want to explore a few other options before we just jump into the first one that we have come across. So that's kind of where we are with that.
And we're actually required to submit an RFQ, so because they're not the only provider. So that purchase of that size, we need to do an RFQ process and allow others to bid.
Yes.
And we can get that together.
Yeah.
And we'll have that.
So we get quotes from other companies and make sure that we're being fiscally responsible with those funds.
Following the procurement.
This is what, September 5? Okay, good. I'm just trying to figure where we're at in the year.
Dr.
Yes,
Martin,
September 5.
do you want to say anything about the retreat, the data? I know you're collecting beginning of year data now.
Yes.
And so, and we just passed a motion that you'll be kind of presenting on that. Do you want to say anything about the board retreat?
Mr. President, members of the board, the data that I presented, my team actually did their best to come up with that data. But I'm glad we're only going to give you a schedule of data that will be presented to the board on the 3rd, because we're still finishing up with the BOY assessments as of this time, and the data that can be presented during the first board meeting we'll be presenting data on will be the BOY assessments, and the window ends sometime towards the end of September, and so we should be able to come up with
Good
those
data for you there.
I apologize, I didn't quite catch the acronym.
Oh,
Beginning of
beginning of the
year.
year, data.
Okay,
Because at this time, our students are taking the beginning of the year assessments for iStation, iMasa, and pretty much studied. And sometime in October, our synergy assessments, our quarterly assessments, will be scheduled as well. But we should be ready with the beginning of the year assessment data for grades K through 8, and pretty much grades K to 8 at this time.
there are other authentic real-time data points besides those. Those are system-wide data, that's crucial. So we need to discuss those others that are between now and then that we generate throughout the district. So it's not just the academic performance, it can be attendance, it can be behavior, it can be a lot of other, it can be an examination of the next step. How many of the students have completed, or have the next steps been completed? What data does the next step say? So we can generate information that can be reported. The other thing though is such as have the PLCs begun to function? So is there a report in terms of those things? Because the strategic plan talks about PLCs, they talk about the curriculum, and has that been implemented? And so we need to know those kinds of things. One of the things we need to do is to ensure that the curriculum is taught with fidelity throughout the district. So that if a first grade class in Sibuyato is being taught the curriculum of the district, so should it be in other schools. If it isn't, then why isn't it? So that kind of information is kind of like not so much numerical data, it's basically saying, is the system functioning? Is it operating so that when it gets to the scores, we can do that? Yes.
We lost Richard, so we need to,
We pause for now?
Yeah.
Because we do not have a quorum.
we don't.
So hold on, I still have one more comment on equity and CLRE. Let me,
I think we're all trying to find him now.
he's probably getting a bunch of calls now. You may have the best direct contact.
Sometimes not.
Got dogpiled.
How are the cookies?
I'm trying to,
They're good.
As good as Oreos?
Better.
Yeah, you guys, I'm back.
I'll come back.
But you guys don't have to pause. We got through action. Hello?
Yeah, we're moving along. We got it.
Yeah, you don't have to pause, but yeah, I'll stay here as long as I can.
Okay, we cannot wait on implementing CLRing and SEL. So while you're looking at trying to figure out what are the options, the reason I mentioned it's September 5 is because it's been a while. So when we look at the proposals, we need to see proposals that are going to accomplish the job. And I recognize what you're saying. However, we're also giving $300,000 to each of the 3 tribes. So that means that we are doing something comparable in a large amount scale. And so that means that we cannot run away from the fact that some things do cost money. I don't want us to be in a position of where we're saying we can't afford it, when it's actually important for our children, our teachers to get quality training. And so it must be seen in that light. I don't want us to say we don't have the money, because apparently we do have the money and we do have a hefty cash balance that is available to us. Nevertheless, we need to accord an opportunity to ourselves to look at what our options are. I have an idea what some of the options are. On the district website, it does state some of these things, and they all require some kind of consultant training. The PED does not necessarily itself provide the training. They contract, or they recommend you contract with others. There's one called CASEL, C-A-S-E-L, and there are some trainers who do that kind of stuff. There's then those who are involved with the Shockey approach, and that's another training. It's high demand area nationwide, so it's really difficult to get the necessary training. And I think that a lot of school districts are running into that problem, is that to develop your own, it's kind of tough, because then most of them do not have the expertise on site to do that. So at this point, we have to look at those kinds of things and see what we can do. To equity, for quite a while, equity and CLR and SEL have been part of the dialogue in the national forums. And there's some equity frameworks that discuss how a district can address the disparities that exist in academic achievement, and that school districts can develop approaches or those frameworks that help us identify those disparities, use them as indicators, and begin to develop a set of strategies to address those disparities. We learned what they were the other week when we went to the retreat. We saw the gaps, we acknowledged them. So we need to do something about those things and be consistent about addressing those things. What Ms. Elkins was talking about was an example of how we can address those things. And so how do we make that system wide? So what I would want to see the board do is to develop an understanding of what is going to be the systems, our strategic system of equity in this district. And one part of it, of course, is direct training into the areas of equity and CLRE and SEL. Those are key components. But the vast part of equity has to do with what she's talking about. Improving instructional effectiveness, improving teamwork, identifying those students who have greater needs, who are at risk, and addressing those, and having the board receive reports back that we are making progress. That I'm hoping will be tremendous improvement that we can mark this year to be the launching year. Okay. Enough said. Thank you, Ms. Martinez. Is there anything else that you wish to say about this?
I actually will add that Cherokee Holly is actually, that's specific to CLR, and the CASEL framework is SEL. Cherokee Holly He has some great strategies, but they're not specific to the community we serve. With all due respect, the community that we currently serve here in Cebolla County is predominantly Native American. And I don't know a lot of curriculums that are evidence-based specific to Native American populations. CRM does that. And I don't see a lot of strategies working with Cherokee-Hawley if you don't have the mindset. And I have said that consistently in terms to CRM, is you have to have that mindset. Without it, the strategies do not work. They're ineffective. And the PED will tell you that. I had extensive conversations with them last summer and asked, how successful is this that Cherokee-Hawley is out doing these? He has to do a lot of training in order for it to be effective. But if you have that mindset, and that's where it comes from, the foundation of social emotional learning is relationship building. And you have to have that. If you do not have those, these will not work. We talk about sustainability and cultivating a safe and supportive environment, and that is kind of the essence of it. Without it, we're just sinking money. And so I seriously want us to consider that. The population we're serving, it may not be the cheap way to go. And as I explained to Ms. Jones and to Superintendent Widener, there's ways to figure that out. There's grants. There's so many things available. We serve a really unique population with Native Americans, Hispanic students, low socioeconomic, rural community. Money should not be a barrier. And I came from a financial literacy training this morning with a good friend of mine, New Mexico State Treasurer Laura Montoya, and she constantly reminds me that we make excuses as New Mexicans that New Mexico is a poor state, but when you sit in conversations with her, you'll find out that we are one of the richest states. We just need to learn how to have that mindset and cultivate that presence of richness. And so with that, thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Can I be excused? Can I go home now?
Tony wants to go home.
Yes.
He's an FFA.
Yes, he is.
Okay, so they can go home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Miller, that kind of sums up our board retreat. It was a great day of work, and it was really good to have all of our board members there. Yeah.
Yeah, more to come.
I'm gonna move on to the bond election. And Mr. Maldonado, coming out of our finance committee meetings, we've been talking about that we need to start circulating promotional materials about the bond election. And Mr. Maldonado's been working on that. Mr. Maldonado, do you want to discuss that or
Yes,
just
if,
share those?
If Mr. Dr. Dalton pass these out for me, I'd appreciate it.
Doctor.
Mr. Doctor, yeah.
Professor Patrick.
Wait, you have to get your doctor first.
Right? I was gonna do an EDD at one point. Mr. Jones,
I can bring it up.
Our finance committee has been talking about not really putting these materials out until mid-September. And so we're going to start putting these out in the community in about 2 weeks.
I am. Let me bring it up for him so he can see. So this is just a draft of a communication piece that we can put together to share with the community. When you're ready, I propose we wait until October 1st to do this, because too much information ahead of time, people forget, and then we gotta try to catch up. So this packet here just shows how we want to detail the 3 items on the $20 million bond that we want to propose. So the Mesa View Elementary School, the 6.6 million of that 20 million that would supplement the previously approved bond. Then Mount Taylor Elementary School replacement for 13 million, which is our share. This is our share. And then 400,000 for school site upgrades, modernization. And we're focusing on lighting upgrades and district parking lot repairs, those things that always get pushed off without doing. So here is just a look at how we can detail some of the information. This is all just placement for you right now, but you can see how we can detail more information about Mesa View Elementary School. Here's where I would want to discuss that the first bond that we did for 10 million will not cover both projects as previously anticipated. And then we'll go into this timeline. You can see planning, construction, demolition, and then into Mount Taylor, making our case for a replacement to Mount Taylor. And then the lighting and parking lot upgrades district-wide, making our case for that. And then, of course, talking about, giving you a little bit of information, education about how bonds work and how we are funded through them and what our share is. So the important part is, of course, the communication that says no increase in taxes on the mill rate. And then the single sheet is just the plan here for how we want to communicate that. And so I'm proposing 3 different vehicles, this informational booklet that I just went over here once we finish it up. A Q&A fact sheet on bond elections, because there are a lot of questions that people have. I want to make it as easy and clear and simple as possible for people. And then a video describing the current meeting and sort of the scope of the projects. I think those 3 things together will help us make our case with our various stakeholders, the voters. And you can see my key themes that I put together about the 3 school replacements, how inflation and labor availability and supply chains have impacted our ability to pay for these with the original amounts that we anticipated. And then also talking about why we need to replace the buildings because they're insufficient for student use. The promotion plan, a series of informational online meetings, in-person presentations to various stakeholders. We can identify who we want for those. Informational items and presentations to the staff. They can be our biggest advocates for this. So if we can bring them on board, then they can help promote that and push that. As you know, we as a district can't say vote yes or no. We only can say consider that we're bringing this for consideration. So we have to be very careful about our wording. And then a few ads, and then video on the website and on our YouTube channel. And then an ad in the Cibolo Citizen that I propose starting September 1 and doing it all the way through November 3rd. October 1, what did I say? Oh, no, October 1. Yeah, a month and 3 days.
And we can do the videos on social media.
Excuse me?
We can do those videos on social media.
Yeah, so whatever those avenues are, so.
Great.
That's what I have for you as a start.
And so that's kind of our plan with the bond election, and we want to start getting the word out there that that there is a bond that we want the voters to have a say in. Item C.
Report. Who's item C? That's it. Thinking about the electorate in November, when it comes to bonds, I don't think we've ever not passed the bond election. That means that the voters have determined that it was acceptable for us to do the things that we say we're doing. Did we get a chance to talk with any of our stakeholder groups, Mr. Widener, since before we, the last few weeks to discuss these, them get some feedback from them?
We've had meetings, we haven't talked about.
Not on this
bond.
topic, not yet. We wanted to bring this to you guys first to look at.
We can have those conversations.
What I would suggest is that, because you've got electorate that goes from Pine Hill to Sibieta and to Acoma. And they would want to feel that, that the focus of our bonds are going to be of benefit to the county as a whole for the district. But they actually will say, well, how is it gonna affect the students that I know about?
Right.
So I would really advise you to go and do that, is to say, to communicate with them and see if there's if they have any kind of interest, whether or not we are sufficiently flexible enough to accommodate those things. We have to look forward to the ever increasing costs of construction. So by the time we get to this, it may be, again, high, and that would emphasize that is that we're living in a difficult time when the costs keep escalating on us. And so, but if there's something that they're interested in as a entity or as a group of who represent certain populations, that we need to find out whether or not we're going to be able to do that. But we can educate our communities about these things effectively. Thank you. So anyway, why don't you go back and talk to some of those folks and see what they say?
Yes, sir. We can do that.
Okay. The beginning of a good PR program right here. It's great. School visits.
School visits, I just wanted to let the board members know that from the time I've started and since we've started school, I've kind of been having the executive leadership team, well, I have been having the executive leadership team go to the school sites. So you'll see in the communication emails that I send you, you'll see which schools I'm at during the week, and very much want the schools to feel supported, to feel that there's a central office presence, that we're there to kind of assist them in what they need. We talk about, getting authentic data and putting that in that principal's hand, in those teachers' hands. And so the directors have all been taking on Fridays. We've been doing, this week we're gonna do kind of throughout the week. Our goal this week is to be in PLCs and see what's happening in those PLCs and what those look like. And so I'll let the directors kind of give you feedback. I went to Cabero the other day and they were shorthanded on custodial staff. And so I helped clean the tables and I helped fold up the tables in the cafeteria. I helped put away the salad bar. And then I went and did recess duty with the sixth graders and the kindergartners. And it was actually the best part of my week last week. I loved it. It was great to be with the kids and see the learning process. So directors, do any of you want to report out on your visits?
I have a confession to make. I have not gone to any of the schools yet.
Because he doesn't.
All
He
transparency.
doesn't work on Fridays.
I have a finger pointing at me, so I'd like to share my visit. I went to San Rafael on Friday, and I was able to talk to your cook and see how lunch is going, and she had really good feedback for me. So I got to visit firsthand with her to see if she needed some additional support or what were some concerns that she had or challenges, and she is just lovely. She loves feeding students and so she looks forward to it. The portion size is still, something of concern of hers, and so I told her we were addressing those issues. I went to every classroom. I got to see Ms. Murieta in Kinder and First, and she was single-handedly working in her classroom by herself. The educational assistant sub wasn't there, and so she had Kinder and First all together trying to check out some computers. So she had a bit of a challenge, but she's lovely. And there was another activity in Miss Belen Capugan. And they had a wonderful activity, and they were actually traveling the United States. So it was really a nice time to be. I went to Cebolleta as well, and I've been to Mesa View, and just going into those classrooms are valuable. getting my kid fix, and so I look forward to those weekly.
They're probably gonna call me here if you
A lot of great things happening over there, Mr. Miller.
I don't have a choice. I don't know.
Excellent. I think that, it's amazing what you find out about individual, persons in the staff that you, this helps you to, it grounds you, and reinforces what you do, what we do here in the district. That's amazing. Any others for the cause?
I've actually visited all of the schools in the district, in the last.
Overachiever.
So have I.
Well, cause that's
sir.
part of my job as well, but, so really, it's, it's just, it's so amazing, the amount of respect that kids have for adults in the buildings. I've experienced that more so here than I have any other district I've worked in. And so, it's really great. The teachers they're trying their hardest, they're doing their best. I've been, I walk through classrooms, of course, I'm meeting with the kitchen staff as well, because that's a huge concern of mine right now too. But it's really neat, as a district administrator, to get back and just be able to see the kids. Even the littles, which I never worked with, but it's just neat, So it's a good thing, and it gets me out of my normal routine of what I do day to day, so.
I've visited every school of the district as well, not only because it's part of my job, but I've always wanted to do that since I became federal programs director, but sometimes your workload just becomes too heavy to, I tried once in a while during that time, but this time around I made it a point to actually visit every school. Like Ron said, it's really nice to see and to mingle with kids and all that, and to actually find out firsthand from teachers what they need in their classrooms and all that. I was actually there for another reason, that's to meet with principals regarding things that are required by PEDs. It's like hitting two birds with
Excellent.
I was actually able, last week was my first week on the job, but I was able to visit Mount Taylor and Milan last week. I was impressed, walking in both schools, that the job that the custodial staff has done, the schools were clean, and I know that at Mount Taylor, that's a bit of a challenge because they've had some flooding and some different things going on, but the schools were in very good shape as far as walking in. I didn't think, they looked very nice. I got to go to the little people, that's where my early childhood, so I got to go into a kindergarten classroom, and I walked in and the teacher said, these guys need some help. And so I knelt down next to him and helped them with the little math things that they were working on, and then she took pictures because she said that she'd never had a central office staff in her classroom, so she needed to take pictures of that. And so she took pictures, and I walked around and visited a few other classrooms and touched bases with the principals before I left. But it was fun being back with little kids again. It's nice little change of pace.
Excellent. Well, thank you, all, and continue, but you got a whole year, so
It'll fly by.
yeah, space it out.
We've been there, and this week our focus is PLCs. We wanna see what's happening instructionally, because we've all led instruction before, and we wanna see, what are we doing? How are we growing the kids? How are we using the standards and the DLPs? And so that's kind of where we're at this week. The next item that we have is our strategic plan. I talked to Dr. Archambault about this quite a bit last week, and again, we want this to be kind of a focus of our board meetings. This is kind of our guiding principle as a school district. It is our guiding principle as a school district. And so I wanted you to, this is our strategic plan tool that we continually update, where it's a living, breathing, growing document. It's an electronic document.
It's heavy.
It is heavy. and it has all of the critical actions and the folks that are working on different aspects and parts of it. And the thought is that we upload everything for you regularly. And so this kind of gives you, we did an activity at our summit where we were kind of looking at what items were on the road, what items were on the back burner, what items were on target. And so this just kind of gives you guys a handheld version of that tool right now, so you can see where we're at. Again, this was a great document that Mr. Pettis had implemented last year. We did take it, we emptied it out, and we reset it for this year. And so it is a growing document and a work in progress. But I want to be able to present this to you guys at least every month, so you know that we are working on the 4 goals. We are working on the equity, the being culturally responsive. We're working on all of the aspects of the strategic plan. And so you should have access to the electronic version of this where you can click on the stuff. But I wanted you to have a copy of it for tonight. And so that kind of, I hope that kind of answered those questions. Which items have begun? Where do we need further development? We talked about CLR and SEL, and we talked about tangible data, and so just so you know, those are we're starting the wheels in motion. Some of them are moving faster than others, but we are focused on meeting the goals of the strategic plan.
And just keep up with the documentation is all I can express, so that it's not only open to us, but it's available for anybody who wants to look at it on our website.
Correct. And we want people to utilize it, and look at it, and see what we're doing. So, if you don't have any questions on that, that kind of concludes the superintendent's report.
Any questions?
No, sir, because I have bad news for you, Mr. President, so.
Yes, you and I are already in communication right now.
I'm being called away, is what's going on.
What I would ask the board to do is to recommend to the administration that they identify those parts of the strategic plan that have more direct impact upon teaching and learning and parental involvement.
You noticed my synopsis
Yes,
at the end of
because
my
I think
emails.
those are critical elements of there. We have a lot of our formal representatives of our constituencies, but we need to ground ourselves in parents. And that's what Stevie was saying, is that she knows that she has some parents who need help in being good parents. And so we need to focus on those guys too and help them get over the hump too. So I would suggest that you do some way to code those things. Some are supportive of instruction. And you may end up, as time goes by, saying maybe we don't have to, we will do them, but strategically, we should focus on those things that have the most punch on our achievement and a graduation and so forth. Thank you. Mr. Weiner, we are through with the superintendent's report. We are here at the point of having an executive session, which could take some time. Mr. Hayes.
Mr. President, I unfortunately, I'm being called away for an incident in town right now. I'm the one that's on call, so I can't be here, so that will end our quorum. So I don't know what the next process part is.
The next process part is that we're going to, once we lose the quorum, then the meeting ends.
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
He's gone too.
We lost Jones.
You're the lone man standing.
Okay, that being the case, there is no quorum at this point, and so the meeting will end. And thank you, all directors. We're beginning a new year, and I really appreciate all of the work that we're beginning to start. And Mr. Widener, we've really worked, we've begun to have those dialogues that are getting us targeted and focused appropriately. So at this point, the meeting will end due to the lack of a quorum, and we will meet again. Thank you.
Mr. Hayes, you all right?
Fine.
Somebody else now.
Gentlemen, I'm going to, not so much.
Dr. Guy, are you wanting to go to the October 10th?
Yes.
Are you gonna go, you're gonna do it too?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to time off, so.
But that one's a virtual one.
Which,
One in October?
October?
What are you talking about? Are you talking about the one in Norton?
No, there's the one in Albuquerque?
That's in April.
No, there's an October 11th.
There's October 11th, that's the one you're talking about?
October 11th.
It says NMSBA online event. That's what it says.
We'll call them, they're delicious.
Yeah.
Yes. We'll meet tomorrow, Dr. Guy. Oh, that's so good.
Okay.
It's okay on this meeting. This is just basically getting ready to.
Agreed.
Okay.
To know what's expected.
What to expect, okay.
Yes.
Mr. Miller, thank you for staying for the board meeting.
Yeah, thank you.
Our cheering department.
It might be helpful. Another meeting tomorrow.
Is this Joe?
I think it might be best if you did sit in and do some brainstorming on the data